This build features content from a pack that I got for free through the EA Creator Network. And today I'm building a forest cottage in Henford on Bagley, and it is for a Simmer collab hosted by Nicole Makes called the Be Kind collab. The collab's theme is centered around a message of kindness, and so when I was approaching what I wanted to build for this, I decided I wanted to make a setting where I felt like it would be the easiest to be kind to yourself. And that to me would be somewhere very quiet, very secluded. And so I started to build a forest, and you'll see that I just picked out different trees and I scattered them around. I am gonna have to remove one of the larger trees to the left because it completely blocks the house on the gallery, but I think it looks good either way. So if you end up downloading this and that tree is missing, you could just kind of like insert it back in. It shouldn't be like that big of a problem. But this build also has little areas to kind of give back to your community. I created a little family when I was making this with like two grandparents living with their granddaughter. They have sort of like a community library at the front of their farm, as well as kind of like a produce stand where they can put like freshly baked goods or other things they grow, maybe fresh eggs from their chicken coops and like honey from their bees. And like they could just share it with their community and their community shares with them. I also have like a restoration garage because of the new kits that came out, but I figured that the grandfather would maybe like be the guy who knows how to fix everything or like build certain things for other people's gardens. So like my build is mostly centered around helping one another and not really expecting anything in return. And this sort of lot is probably one of my favorite to build. It's always like most therapeutic to just sit down and place plants around where I think they look nice together and then worry about the house much later. And so like the house I don't think is anything really special on the exterior. I really love the interior, but I feel like the shape of the house is a little bit basic and it was pretty difficult because I decided to build it on a diagonal because I thought it would look the best in the landscape. And diagonal building is always a nightmare. Usually, I used to like dread doing the interior of homes like that, but the exterior was a pain. Like the walls weren't connecting correctly, the roofing was being buggy, which like I've learned that if you place a roof down and you like drag it out a little bit to try and like fit in where you expanded the diagonal walls, it just won't fit and you have to make a whole new roof for some reason. And I always forget that. And so I was like fighting with this roofing for so long. And there are pieces of the roofing where you kind of see walls and it's like there's no roofs on some of like diagonal pieces of walls. I had to just ignore it because it was a nightmare. Oh yeah, I was doing like this produce stand over here, and I thought that like the look of those columns with the spandrels would make a really nice fake clothing line. I didn't do that, but I wanted to point it out in case anybody wanted to try and do that because you could see that like I'm even like trying to replicate it. And I'm like, maybe I could do that near the house, but I was just like, you know what? I don't even know what the house is going to look like. So let me not do that, and maybe I'll use that idea in a future build because I think it would work really nicely with that. I just don't know what I could hang on there to make it actually look like a rustic clothing line. Yeah, feel free to try that out because I think it would look really nice in a very small build. Like this one, it would have looked nice as a clothing line somewhere, but I just like I couldn't like be bothered trying to like find a place for it near the house. And I just made it into a sort of like a produce stand. I was imagining that the owner would like bake fresh goods and leave them out and like people could come by and like pick them up, like that sort of thing. But I really love the landscape for this build. It's very simple. I was really just like copying random things that I already placed down to try to like fill in the areas using stepping stones as pathways leading through the forest to different areas. Also, like the broken down wagon used sort of as a garden planter. This one looks more like the natural landscape kind of grew over it. But I think that would work really well as like a planter, maybe near a garden, and you can actually like put flowers in it that's not as messy and isn't like cutting through like I had done. But I was like, this is like hidden behind trees. I don't need this to be perfect. But I think that would work really well. I feel like it's probably cottage living debug item. It's really hard to tell sometimes, and some items just get lost forever, and then I find them again like a year later, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot that this existed, and that's what happened with that broken wagon. So I would like to use that again as a flower box, but the odds of that happening are very low because I'm probably not going to be able to find it again. But yeah, you can see where I'm trying to figure out the shape of this build, and I was just like, you could see it's a nightmare trying to do this. And then I was like, what is the floor plan even going to be of this? And I did have to expand it a lot, like towards the back because it was very small. And I was set on the idea of having two bedrooms in this. So I had to make sure it was big enough for that. But yeah, you could see, like, I've been building for years, and sometimes I really struggle too with trying to get the shape to work. And you could see that, like, the roof isn't lining up with the diagonal walls, and it made no sense to me because the front was lining up, but the back wasn't. It's like, I figure it out by making a new roof, and it like ends up being okay. And I do hide one of those angles in the roof as a small tower, and I was trying to play around with doing multiple towers for that reason, but I thought it looked way too messy and like too much going on. But yeah, you could see I was so confused on why my build wasn't working right with these walls. It doesn't make sense to me. I need to stop questioning some things in The Sims though. So I had to like try and use diagonal walls, and well, those are technically regular walls. I'm not gonna get into it. It's gonna confuse me because I'm already confused. I was just trying to make the builds actually be one room, and that was a huge struggle for me this entire time. It felt like a puzzle trying to do it. And I was like, it felt so relaxed doing the landscape and everything. And then as soon as I get to this diagonal, I'm just like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? So I'm like, let me just start trying to make the landscape lead more naturally up into the house. And I'll worry about the house a little bit later because I knew that that house was still a little bit too small for what I was wanting for this build. My intention was I started this build and I knew that the kits were coming out. And so I was like going to build the shell and then furnish it with the new kits that I got thanks to EA. And I really love the new kits. I use like pretty much every item from the new kitchen clutter kit. And it's like maybe I used too many items in it, but I think it works. It looks like a very like messy kitchen where they are currently baking a lot of stuff. And if they're like constantly baking like a lot of things and like sharing it with the community, it would make sense that their kitchen is just full of all of this stuff like all the time and it's like a little bit messy. And maybe she also like has like sort of like baking classes where she teaches people how to bake certain things or cook certain things. And I was kind of thinking that for the grandfather too, maybe he like has like workshop classes where he teaches people how to like fix things and make things. Because like when I was making the Sims, I gave him like I think it was the mentor trait, which I didn't even realize was a thing. Maybe that came with business and hobbies, I'm assuming. I feel like this lot is just set up really well for a lot of different potential hobbies and stories. There's places for a lot of different things that you can do. Like even this huge garage, which I'm just starting to build now. I mean, it's kind of like an old barn, more like it. And I used a lot of the restoration kit while I was checking out the items. And this space could be turned into anything you want. It doesn't have to be just because I don't even think there's a lot of activities in there. I didn't even put a woodworking bench in there, which I think would fit really nicely. I haven't uploaded to the gallery yet, so maybe I'll find a place to just throw a woodworking bench in before I upload it. I did do like a flower arranging table outside in the garden. I really like the garden area. I feel like it's very pretty. It's very simple. I just have some gardening plots and just a little pieces of decor here and there. I have some pieces of like the restoration kit outside of the garage, so it kind of like blends the two places together. And I change out these insect things to the beekeeping boxes because I think at first that's what I thought they were. And then I remembered that those are like the insect stuff where it's like they make fuel, don't they? Because I remember when I was doing my 100 baby challenge years ago and I had them off the grid and I was trying to like do everything myself while raising all these kids. It was a nightmare. I don't recommend. It was like a hardcore 100 baby challenge. It was like way too much. I like barely was able to pay attention to any of my sims during that. But yeah, I switched out to the beekeeping boxes because I realized I was like, oh, okay, these aren't even the beekeeping stuff. I also have quite a bit of landscaping in this, but I didn't want to like cut too much of it out. I thought maybe it could be nice to watch the landscape come together instead of it just appearing like every like just like I don't know, because I was thinking of maybe not having as much of the landscape in the beginning at first and cutting some of it out. And that's why I only had the trees placed down because it did also take me a little bit to have trees. And I was just like, am I going to talk over like a minute and a half of video of me placing down different trees? And it's like maybe some people would like to see the process of picking trees. But like, yeah, I was like, I'm going to keep a lot of the landscape in, which definitely made the beginning of this video a little bit lengthy. I did cut out me placing some of these bushes to line the like where it's a little bit steeper on the terrain. I did the same thing that I do with, well, I mean, I'm showing it here now, but I was using these bushes instead of rocks because usually I put rocks, but I wanted it to feel a lot more lush. And I was like, I feel like rocks are just so harsh. And so I was trying out different, like, more greenery to hide some of the sharp dirt. And then I put the rocks towards the back because I felt like it made sense. I was like, oh, yeah, the back of the house can be on a cliff and I'll have these rocks. And I do have to move this stuff around often because I do expand the entire back of the house out a lot, which helps me to be able to fit in a larger bedroom because I did want two bedrooms. And while I was looking at this, I was just like, there's no way that two bedrooms are going to fit, but that is something I'm going to worry about later. And over here, I was trying to figure out how to make like a tiny community library. And I wanted it to be open at first because I wanted you to be able to see the books inside. But I like played around with a lot of different things. I didn't like any of them, but I really liked how this yellow wood boxes looked together. And I was just like, I don't need it to be open. I do place some books at like the bottom of the base, but it would make sense. Like if it was raining, this would all be closed anyway. You wouldn't really be able to see inside. But just know that that was my vision, that that was supposed to be like a tiny community library where people just drop off their books and they come and borrow other ones. And yeah, so the back here, I think I start realizing that I have to expand it. And you could see the issue with the roofing. Like for some reason the roofing wasn't lining up. And the solution to that was to just like bring that roof in, make it just the front roof, and then like create a whole new roof because it was not lining up. And for some reason, if you just have a whole new roof, it ends up being okay. And I don't know why that is, but that's just how it is. And you can see here, the moment I do it, it ends up fixing the problem. And then I don't even need those other like diagonal angled walls at all. And I'm able to just have that be a flat wall back there. But I did like the slight angle. So I ended up making just a tiny porch out the back. It's off like the grandparents' bedroom. And it really doesn't have a lot on it. I think it might have a chair and a clothing line and a wash tub for the clothes and a litter box because last second I remember that I wanted like them to have a pet, which I didn't even make the pet in Create Sim, so it was like an afterthought and then it was a thought that I completely forgot again after I had the thought. But yeah, I added some pet stuff around just because I felt like this lot they'd have a pet. and so there's going to be a pet bed in the granddaughter's room, and it was a little bit difficult to try to like find the places for stuff, which is why the litter box ends up being outside on the deck because I couldn't fit it anywhere else. And here you can see I'm trying to expand the house as much as possible without making it look really strange. I feel like this part becomes the granddaughter's bedroom, I think. I'm not too sure. It must. I think I have to expand it a little bit more though, but I believe that that ends up being the other bedroom. And yeah, I definitely will have to expand it because that I feel like when I'm looking at the interior like that, it just like it does not end up looking like that. Okay, yeah, see, I'm bringing it out way more, and so I'm able to make both bedrooms a lot larger and realizing that I should change out the trees so that they don't block everything. But yeah, that was like the final changes for the shape, and I think that was all. I think now it's big enough to have two like decently sized bedrooms, a good sized bathroom, a kitchen. There's no like kitchen table, but there is an island where Sims can eat, and there is a picnic table outside. There's a tiny living room, which is like all you really need in it. I did struggle with the like entryway, which you'll see later on. I have these very strange like triangle pieces that makes no sense, but I didn't want to just have it be empty like space with rooms that don't do anything because it is a triangle on each side, and so I squeeze in different storage like objects to blend it in a little bit. It still looks strange, but for some reason I was like, I don't want it to just have empty triangles. I want to try and use the space. And the exterior is, I feel like the walls and stuff's kind of boring. I use just white wood walls throughout. I change out those shingles. Yeah, you could see I'm changing them out because I thought it looked a little bit too busy, and I kind of liked it just to be all the one wall color with just the stone accent near the tower, and that's it. I was using a light blue as an accent color. You could see it on the shutters and in the front door, and that's pretty much carried out throughout the interior. I used a lot more colors in this one. It's a lot lighter of a color palette than a lot of my builds, which it's like dark browns and natural woods, greens and reds. This one has orange, yellow, blue. The granddaughter's room has a lot of pink, I think, and I also use a lava lamp that gives off a slightly pink hue. So I definitely went for more of a like refreshing color palette in there where it looks very airy, and it would feel like there's a lot of natural light, but there's kind of not because there isn't too many windows. But because of like the colors I used, I think it helped to make it not feel as cramped. And now you can see the floor plan, and you can see the storage areas and those triangle pieces at the front that I was talking about. I do delete those shelves and I use different things, but that was my, I'm going to place these here so I know what my vision is, and then I'll try and change them out later. But it is a good, I feel like it's a good layout for this house. The kitchen is a really good size. I was surprised because when I was doing this, I knew I wanted the kitchen to be like really spacious so that I could have a lot of baking stuff in it. And I had the vision that I was going to use the new kits when they came out. And so I wanted to have space for that. And that's also why I built that barn shed off to the side over there too, because I knew I wanted to check out the kit with that too. And I knew that I wasn't going to build something else in the meantime because I've been very slow in building lately. And so I was like, I'm working on this build for this collab, so I'm going to use this build as an excuse to check out the new kits too, because I haven't even started another build. I am kind of late with this one because I've been a little bit busy. It is spring now, and I have like raised garden beds and I have like railing containers that I plant like vegetables and herbs and flowers in. And so I've been really busy getting all of that started. and just like having to like carry so much soil and heavy stuff. It's like my energy is just, it hasn't been where it needs to be to have started a whole nother build. But I've also been looking at some of my older builds. I've been doing like shorts showcasing some of them, and it got me inspired to maybe do another variant of my spellcaster shells, which is like, well, I mean, it's all white build, just like this. Like the outside is like all wood and white, but for those I used pink mushrooms and like the purple glowing orbs from Realm of Magic, and I'd like to make a micro home of that, but I don't know if I'll have a build video up next week. If it is a micro home and I do get started on it this week, then I think I will. But there's a possibility that I'm once again going to skip next week's upload. Because, like, this build, I thought it wasn't going to take me that long. And I feel like I say that all the time because you could see the inside is very small, but the outside took me forever to do. And that's always a surprise to me, even though like landscaping, when I'm doing it, it feels like, time has gone by and I feel like I did it so quickly. And then I'm editing and I'm just like, oh my God, why is it 20 minutes of all exterior building? And now we're finally inside the house at 21 minutes. And I really like the interior a lot of this one. You could see the colors that I picked out now. I do change the flooring in the kitchen, which is gonna be the room that has the pink flower wallpaper. I have a like wood floor right now from Realm of Magic, I think. I switched that out to match the bathroom tile because I thought it looked a little bit better with all of the new kitchen items that I had added. And for the bathroom, I did a lot of pale blue. I thought it just looked really nice and I really liked how it looked. And there's perfect amount of space. I was able to squeeze in some extra clutter like that laundry basket and just random objects here and there without it feeling overcrowded. And the bathroom definitely did help to kind of like set the atmosphere for the rest of the rooms too. I really like how the lighting turns out in here. Right now it's just the regular lighting, but I use this new light from Business and Hobbies above the sink because I thought it'll look really nice there and have some candlelight in the corner. I feel like it's perfectly dim without it being like way too bright, which is like it looks like a very different lighting from what I'm used to putting in my builds too. I do like it. And now we're into the kitchen, which is I think one of my favorite parts of the interior because I got to use the new kitchen clutter kit. I think I have it at this point, or I don't yet. I don't really remember. I guess we'll see because I edited this like days ago, so I don't really remember what stages I had the kits and when I was just building in preparation for eventually getting them. But yeah, okay, I do have the kits. And I know that you need to restore that stove before you can use it, which is also why at the start of my video, I was originally going to have like my sim baking and putting like the baked goods out on the table. But the sim, like restoring that stove takes a really long time. And I just didn't want to have to like wait for my sim to finish restoring it. Which, like, so if you download this from the gallery, you won't really have a stove unless you delete that one and get a different one. And you can't really put down a restored version of that from what I've seen online, at least. But I really think it looks nice with the cottage living blue cabinets. Like, I'm really glad I picked this like blue colors in the bathroom because it inspired me to use these blue counters in the kitchen, and then the blue swatch from the restoration kit, and that stove is really, really nice. And there is a fridge version of it, but the new fridge has these really cute like post-its all over it. There's a cute little gnome on there. It's really cute. So I'm going to probably use that fridge in a lot of my builds. It'll be that one or the cottage living ones. And so now I have one other fridge that I can cycle through for this. But now you could see all of the different clutter that came with the kit. And I do have a creator code if you plan on buying any of the kits at all. My creator code is CrackedKyber. It's not a discount code, but I do receive a small percentage when you put my code in at checkout, and the code will be up on the screen too. And a quick disclaimer that I did get these 3 kits for free through the EA Creator Network, but I do really enjoy these kits. I was actually really excited about these ones. I think the most out of like all of them that have been released in a little while. I would have bought these like myself if I didn't get them for free through EA, because I really do enjoy them. I think that the clutter is really nice. There is like, I feel like these like food containers, the quality of like the look of some of the dry ingredients that are stored in them looks a little bit weird, so I probably won't really use those swatches very much. But I really love it, mostly for the baking clutter that you see in the middle island. Well, you don't see it right now because half of the catalog is blocking it, but you'll be able to see it a little bit more. And the restoration kit, I don't know if I'll use it like a lot, but I do really want to use the like stove and the fridge. And I would really like to do gameplay where it is like in extreme rags to riches and you have to restore your appliances and stuff. I think that would be a lot of fun. Maybe when I like am more ahead of some of the builds that I want to do, I'll look into doing gameplay again. And now I was doing the different lighting. I was making it look a little bit warmer. I think the kitchen looks a lot nicer with the blue tile from the bathroom. It makes it feel like a lot lighter and brighter, and the other wood floor I feel like didn't really match very well, especially with how cluttered it was. I think it needed to be brightened up just a little bit. And over here is the grandparents' bedroom, and for some reason to me, for like, it reads like a hotel room to me. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's this carpet. I think this is like a new base game carpet that I've never used before, and I haven't really used that bed, but something about it feels like commercial for some reason. I'm not sure. Maybe I needed to add more clutter to it. And I do add a little bit of clutter here and there. I feel like it's just the carpet though, like the texture of it. It seems like so clean and pristine. And I'm really used to using the like old dingy looking carpet and sometimes the stained one that came with City Living. And this is probably like not the first time I've used the carpet outside of that, but probably like I really rarely use this like any other carpet besides those ones, which I guess the last time I did use a different one was literally last week when I did the Copperdale haunted like best friends houses. But I could say I've never actually used this carpet before because I was looking through the colors of it and I was like, these are really bright and I want this to feel really bright, like almost like a coastal cottage, even though there's no ocean nearby at all. And it's in the middle of a forest. But that was like what I was going for when I was picking out the color palette for the build. And every time I pick out a different color palette, I'm able to experiment with different furniture that I don't always use. So, like, this bookcase is something that I haven't used yet, and I don't even know what pack that came in. It could have been business and hobbies, or it could have been a completely different pack. I would not know because I've never actually, I don't even think I've taken that bookcase out and like stared at it very much. And I was able to use a different desk that I really just don't use in the granddaughter's bedroom. I do like the green swatch of this carpet better than the blue one, but I feel like I picked out the blue one because I think like because my parents' bedroom had blue carpet. And so that's like what I ended up doing when I was like picking out different things. Like I almost put pink carpet in this bedroom because I had pink carpet, but I went with the green because I like the way that the swatch looks and I think it looks really cute with this heart wallpaper, which I've also haven't used ever. I could say that one. I've never used that wallpaper before, but I really wanted to try out different like swatches when I was going through the catalog, which is also why I kind of cut out doing that because sometimes it just takes a long time to pick out wallpaper and flooring. And to me, if that feels like a boring part, but maybe it's not boring to some people. But I also know myself, and I wouldn't really know what to talk about the entire time I'm picking out swatches. And I already knew that this voiceover was going to be difficult for me to get through because even editing this was difficult to get through. And so I knew that I needed to make a little bit more cuts in it than usual. And I picked out this like barn dollhouse because I felt like it embodied the house that I was building already. Like it has that like sea foam green or like bluish color. And it's a barn, and I kind of made a barn, even though the barn that I built lacks a lot of detail. It still felt fitting. So I put that there, and I also like put a pillow on the floor where like maybe they want to sit on the pillow and play with the dollhouse instead of just right on the carpet, because that carpet looks rough. I will say it doesn't look like a very comfortable soft carpet. And now I'm just adding some more lights in. I think these are just base game lights that I dim a lot so that it's not like super bright. And in a second, we'll be able to see what I pick out to put in these weird triangle corners of the entryway, because I really didn't want to just make that into like a dead room that has nothing in it, because I feel like it was a waste of space. So I really wanted to try and make it work, and I do switch those out. And I really like how the entryway turns out. I was a little bit worried because there's no windows in this area, and so it like I didn't want it to feel super dark and like claustrophobic. But I think it ends up working out a little bit. A mirror helps, the light like wallpaper helps, the door being a light color also helps it not be like a complete, like it doesn't feel completely closed in, to me at least. Okay, and this is the first. Oh, okay. I already picked out both of these for the corners. I needed to find something that didn't like cut into the wall on the other side of the room, and those two items worked perfectly for that area. And they were like a white wood, and then like another one has accents of like a different wood with the white. I think it works, and it doesn't make it feel super closed in. And now I think the last bit of this build is all of this barn, which showcases a lot of the restoration kit. So if you've been interested in the kits and you don't know if you want it, you can see some of the items here because I used pretty much all of them, and or at least tried to use all of them. I might have deleted some stuff because I was really trying to figure out a floor plan that worked for this. I didn't want to just throw this stuff in and like, well, I placed all the stuff in, and then I took days, like, of a break, and I didn't look at it again because I didn't know what I wanted to do with this space, and I didn't want to just, like, throw things in a big square room, which was what was gonna end up happening, and so I, like, took days to just, like, not really look at it for a while and then come back to it when I felt like I was losing time because I did like I wanted this uploaded. I wanted this uploaded on Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. I'm uploading it tomorrow on Wednesday. So it is late. It's later than I wanted it to be. But I was like, oh, I really need to try and like focus. And so this was me picking this back up after days of a break. And all I really did to fix it was I added two little walls to split it up a little bit. I was going to try and like make it a separate room, and I wanted to maybe put a bathroom in here, but the diagonal walls was not working with me very well. And I was like, you know what? No bathroom. I'm just going to have these two walls here. It's an unfinished garage type space anyway, so it's okay. It uses the unfinished wallpaper that comes with the restoration kit, and I paired it with the werewolves wood that I used throughout the entire exterior of the build. And I just made it like a utility area behind there where it's like, I guess like the water pump or something. I don't really know what these things are called, but there's the electrical stuff that ends up being back there hidden away. And I created almost like a counter space where people would come in and like request certain things, almost like a storefront, like counter where you could like ring someone up at a register, but there's no register. That was like the vibe that I was trying to set up for. And I put a little like game table there because I figured maybe like he'll have his friends over and they'll like play games out here. And so I wanted just like to fill in the space, and I thought that that added a little bit something to actually do in this for gameplay because there isn't much to do for gameplay. And I was gonna put like old Christmas decorations hidden in the back, like that they have stored away, but I thought that the space was too small back there to do that. I didn't want it to be way too cramped. I probably will add a woodworking bench either inside the garage area or right outside of it. I haven't decided yet, but I'm sure like I can fit that in without it being like too many items in one area. Yeah, you can see I put the books down over there just to make it like this is what I was meant to do. Like this is supposed to be a library, even though it's like closed and you can't tell. It kind of looks like it could be mailboxes too. So I wanted to make sure that like I got my point across a little bit with it. And then I decided that these people needed a pet and I completely forgot. And now this is me just adding stuff in where I think it would fit. And I think the pet bed looks really cute in the kids' bedroom. I feel like it matches the color palette really nicely too. And I add just a little bit more ivy. Like, not recorded, I also add some like wall slime and stuff like that. And now I put some windows in because I realized there was no windows and I thought that it might help the inside of that feel a little bit brighter. And now we're on the screenshots for the builds, and you could see everything in a little bit more detail and closer up and how all the clutter looks together. But thank you so much for watching. I might not have a video next week, but if I do, it'll probably be a micro home. So yeah, thank you so much. Bye.